If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come, bring my spirits up. There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.
All right, so it's very hot. So if I sound tired or off, it's because it's April and it's like 95 degrees and I worked out in the heat. But I've been needing to get this done. So I'm going to get the voiceover done and then figure out how to get the pictures and all that on here later. Okay, here we go. According to the notes, these are the latest updates. On Monday, April 4th of 2022, there was a hearing where Paul waived his 60 days. So the trial date changed from April 25th, 2022 to May 31st, 2022. On April 20th, 2022, Judge Van Ruwen will decide the new jury trial venue. It said it will possibly be Monterey or Kern County. It has not been decided yet whether Judge Van Ruwen or a new judge will sit on the trial in the new venue. On April 21st, it'll be 1 year since Paul was arrested for Kristin's murder. Time flies. I'm sure time is moving slow for Paul. Of course, his father, Ruben, is still out on bail, charged as accessory to murder, related to concealing her body. There was supposed to be a readiness hearing on April 6th, but they must have handled everything on the other hearings because I got on there and waited and then checked the calendar and they were no longer on the calendar for any type of hearing on that date. Now that we've covered the updates and the latest news regarding the upcoming trial for Paul and Ruben Flores for the murder of Kristin Smart, let's go back in time. Let's cover the timeline as the trial approaches. I'm working on another exciting episode as well. It's a bit tricky, and I'm going to be covering Susan and her boyfriend Mike and their roles as far as what the attorneys and law enforcement say regarding the crime. My top question while researching is why not charge them for also being accessories since they charged Ruben decades later. I did notice that even if you are convicted for accessory to murder after the fact, you're looking at a maximum 3 years and $5,000 fine, which seems silly. Barely worth it, I guess. It's almost just the point of it now. The civil suits do continue. And in the conclusion of this trial, I'm sure it will help the case against Paul for the civil suit as well. I'm assuming that he's going to be found guilty. I want to start off by giving a shout out to True Crime Daily, which is a great show with a lady named Anna Garcia. And I took a short clip from one of the episodes where Allison, the attorney, is speaking briefly regarding Kristin's case, although the main episode's regarding another case, but as a cautionary tale of what not to do in the beginning of a case. It was very thought-provoking for me, and it made me think about just going back to the beginning to reevaluate and look at everything. And unfortunately, we do know the mistakes that were made in the beginning by the campus police. Luckily, that did lead to changes for colleges and new laws and rules that will protect other students in the future. Of course, they cleaned the dorm room out before anybody had a chance to examine. They didn't cordon off any of the sites to be examined. Kristin also was given failing grades because obviously she couldn't make it to class. And her mother fought for that for quite some time, never giving up. And they finally changed her grades from failing. I just keep asking myself, how does this happen? In the beginning, the focus was on Susan's house, Paul's mother. Dogs were there. I've read many articles and reports regarding what the dogs hid on. And in 1996, over 25 years later, in the year 2020, they're saying that her body was moved from Ruben's house. I'm not clear, and the court will hopefully clear this up once they go to trial. Was she first buried at Susan's, then relocated to Ruben's, and eventually scattered out in the Wasna area? She was supposedly under concrete at Susan's house. So that makes it a little more complicated in my opinion. And by the way, these are mostly my opinions based on reports, hearings, and such I've been tracking. We did take a drive out to Wasna where it's believed her remains have been scattered. So please watch that episode. In the episode, I go over the theories, I cover witnesses and such. We also did Kristin's last walk through Cal Poly, starting at Crandall Way. We used maps, pictures, etc., and kind of show you what her last walk was like. So please watch that episode as well. I'd love to hear your feedback regarding these points. And I don't like pointing my fingers at the authorities, but hopefully they're going to do better for the next person, especially with the different laws that are now in place, thanks to Kristin. Let's go back to what went wrong. What makes this case so challenging? I look forward to see the evidence that we still don't know about as it's presented in the trial that's coming up here quickly. Paul got away with it for 25 years, and basically those 25 years being out, he just got worse and worse, just short of murder, as far as we know anyway. There's still questions regarding that. You should really watch the podcast where they go over his more recent crimes in Southern California, which are dark and horrific. I picture Kristin in the same terrifying predicament as you hear the details of how he stalked these women basically like prey, made sure they were drunk and as weak as possible, and then even drugged them further so he could have his way with them. I'm putting together an episode that should be coming soon featuring Susan, Paul's mother, and her long-term boyfriend, Mike, and their possible connections to the case according to court documents and law enforcement. Nothing I'm making up myself. You'll be surprised at one of the statements Susan made when she finally spoke to the media. They also seized a vehicle of hers, which really, really hurt her feelings. Never mind, there's a dead person involved here, but she wants to worry about this hunk of junk car. You'll see that in the episode coming up. Thank goodness. So many are so grateful for the podcast, which actually pushed action in the case. Through interviews, investigation, revisiting the case after all these years, finally, thanks to Chris Lambert, who put the podcast together, who's a local gentleman, I really feel like it had a big part in pushing the case forward. He gets all the kudos and all the credit. It's a phenomenal podcast. You must listen to it. As I said before, it's called Your Own Backyard. So far, it's an 8-part series. And he's going to be adding more as things develop, but probably not until trial, most likely. There's been over 10 million downloads, and he started it in September of 2019. He did over 200 interviews, and the goal was to get people talking, hoping to progress the case and answer some of the questions, which he was spot on with that. In May 2018 is when he started his in-depth research. Even Sheriff Parkinson thanked him. The sheriff acknowledged that the podcast did result in new valuable information. Chris has been offered movie deals, book deals, and so far he's declined. He's still trying to tell the story in real time. He met Kristin's parents for the first time on her birthday unexpectedly here in Shell Beach at a memorial before he even started the podcast. And I do have a short episode in Shell Beach where we have her local memorial that people visit often, leave flowers, and send their regards and their prayers from the beautiful location sitting on the bluffs above the Pacific Ocean. The case is very emotional for locals. We're not going to forget her. We want justice for her. We fully support the Smart family and her attorney, James Murphy. Even though they don't live here, they're in our thoughts and prayers, the family. They're still part of our community even though they don't reside here. They're part of our community over all these years. They do live in Stockton. And their beautiful daughter, Kristin, is lost here somewhere, considered deceased. We all pray that she's found so her family can have some peace. And we also want convictions for both Paul and Ruben Flores And whatever happens in the civil court, we also want it to go in their favor. Hi guys, I'm watching another program and something has popped up about Kristin I want to share with you guys. So let's watch it together and then we'll talk on the other side.
This can't happen. I'm reminded of the case of Kristin Smart from San Luis Obispo case where Paul Flores, now 25 years later, has been arrested, because that initial part of the investigation is so crucial.
Yeah.
And if you think about the Kristin Smart case and compare it to this, the police literally did nothing for days. They didn't secure the scene. They didn't, and something like this. I mean, there's a reason why shows like The First 48 or that initial precious time is where a lot of these cases get solved.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is going to be tricky, and it did take quite some time to put this together, but I'm going to do my best to review the timeline by dates. Of course, May 25th, 1996 was the most tragic date of all, because that's when Kristin was last seen at 2 a.m. walking with Paul. She was highly intoxicated. Paul's arm was around her, supporting her, according to witnesses. Cheryl Anderson was the last to say goodbye to Paul and Kristin, and she was never seen again. Kristin would be actually 45 years old this year if she were still living. We then go to May 27th, 1996, which was that Monday, when Jennifer Phipps calls Cal Poly Police to report Kristin missing, but no actual report was started when she informed them regarding her concerns. The next day, Tuesday, May 28th, 1996, Jennifer Phipps calls Slow PD to report Kristin missing. The police department starts the report and referred Jennifer back to Cal Poly. Another important thing about this date, Tuesday, May 28th, 96, is when Kristin's family first became aware that she was missing officially. And it also was the first date that campus police spoke to Paul regarding Kristin and last being seen with her. We now move on to May 30th, which was the Thursday. Campus investigators interview Paul again at their office, and there's several searches done on campus for Kristin. Now keep in mind, this is 5 days from when she was last seen. On that Friday, May 31st, campus police follow up sightings of a 6-foot blonde young lady resembling Kristin. It's good to freshen up on this timeline for those of us that have followed the case, and also important for people who maybe don't know a lot of the details. I also want to thank some of the sources I use in my research, such as the local paper, Slow Tribune, KSBY News, of course, your own backyard podcast, court documents, and so on. I mentioned it before, but there is supposed detail regarding evidence of an earring that was a matching set that belonged to Kristin, found at Susan's house in the driveway, and was subsequently lost by law enforcement later. So that's one of the things that really, really bothers me about the case. One of many. I'm just going to cover the very basics here. There's so much more information, but with each date, I'm just going to touch on to refresh. And let's see, in 2002 is when Kristin was finally declared deceased. All right, moving on back to 1996. On June 3rd, 1996, which was a Monday, the San Luis Obispo District Attorney's Office interviewed Paul at the Cal Poly Police Department. June 5th of 96, which was a Wednesday, Cal Poly police detectives went to her dorm room and searched Kristin's room and seized the room and its contents for safekeeping. Finally, okay. So this is, 10 days from when she was reported missing? And we all know about evidence. You have to secure it sooner than that, or it gets thrown out a lot of times. So then on June 10th, Monday, they finally secure Paul's dorm room at Santa Lucia Hall. His roommate had moved out, and none of Paul's property was found in the room either. June 19th, 96, which was Wednesday, the DA interviews Paul at a Rio Grande Police Department. They notice his black eye, and he tells them two different stories regarding it was done playing sports, and then he said it was changing out a stereo, and he eventually got up and walked out and refused to answer any more questions in that police interview. June 26, 96, friends and family were fed up and were criticizing Cal Poly's University Police Department, and they finally asked SLO County Sheriff, who was Ed Williams at the time, to assist. And that's when the Sheriff's Department finally agreed to take over the case. We're talking June 26th, so a month and a day for when she went missing before they could get action that they needed. So from June 29th through June 30th of 96, there were over 400 volunteers searching the campus and local landfills, which is named Cold Canyon, at a cost of over $16,000 to Cal Poly. They finally brought scent dogs in that time that were trained to find human remains. 4 different dogs independently hit on Paul's room, his dorm room. And separate dogs also reacted to the same spot. They had stripped his mattress. This was well over a month from when Kristin went missing. And it was done so late. And we, of course, fast forward to 2022, and the evidence is being challenged, which is no surprise. They didn't do it right. Lots of lessons learned for sure. Now we're in July 17th, 96. The Sheriff's Department searches Paul's Rio Grande home, and there was no clues to Kristin's whereabouts found in that search. July 19th, 1996, a billboard on Highway 101 is erected as a daily reminder to find Kristin Smart. Months later, October 15th of 96, there was a rare move done by the county where a grand jury was called in and people were testifying. And 3 of those people were actually Paul, Ruben, and Susan. Okay, so now we're to October 26, 96. More specifically, October 26 of 1996. Stan and Denise Smart file a $40 million wrongful death lawsuit, and it's still ongoing to this date as of 2022. James Murphy, who's a good man, and he's never left the family as far as supporting them. You can see I've done episodes outside his office. They're all on the Kristin playlist. You might as well just watch the whole playlist. He always does nice Christmas decor and Halloween decorations, and he is actually a active member of our community. That civil suit alleges that Flores murdered their daughter at Cal Poly, and later Cal Poly was added to the suit, alleging they did not keep her safe while she was attending college there. SLO County judge dismissed the university part, but gave Smart family a second chance. University appealed and eventually fizzled out because the university is considered a government entity and therefore immune from being sued, which is crazy. No wonder they were so frivolent, really. What do they have to lose? It's pretty sad. Okay, fast forward to January 24th of 1997. James Murphy, the family attorney for the Smarts, begins interviewing for the civil suit, and nothing new came from those interviews. The attorney subpoenaed all the case files, and the DA continues to fight the request every year due to it being an open investigation. So let's recap the lawsuit, fast forwarding to current, and then I'll go back to the timeline, picking back up in 1997. So April 22nd, 2021, there was a new civil suit filed against Paul and Ruben for hiding Kristin's remains, declaring emotional damages. let's see, February 3rd of 2015, they said the family's lawsuit couldn't proceed, but luckily with new evidence in 2021, they picked it up again. Sorry, I did that out of order. May 10th, 2021, Susan and Mike, which is Susan's boyfriend, were actually added to the suit because of their odd behavior and possible involvement. And I pulled some information regarding this from the Santa Maria Times, which also has good information regarding the case. The Santa Maria article discusses how Susan and Mike apparently helped relocate Kristin's remains in 2020. I'll go into more depth in the episode I'm putting together regarding Susan and Mike. It's a tricky one, so it's taking me a while, but there'll be more detail there. Okay, moving on. We're now at January 24th, 97. James Murphy is doing more interviews for the civil suit. Okay, I already covered that, sorry. Next, we're at February 21st, 97, where California governor, who was Pete Wilson at the time, added $50,000 to the existing $75,000 reward for info and arrest, including conviction for Kristin's case. March 4th of 97, the smart attorney Murphy searches the Flores family property, which has been rented by others at the time. No new leads were found during that search. April 13th, 97, 200 people attend fundraisers in Arroyo Grande to help with the legal expenses for the Smart family. May 23rd, 97, Sheriff Williams announces Paul is the only suspect. May 25th, 97, at the 1-year mark, there's been little progress on the case. May 8th, 97, the SLO Sheriff's Department sifts through dirt near Paul's old dorm room. The FBI is involved and interviewed hundreds of Cal Poly students and staff. On August 12th of 98, here's one of the bigger updates. My note on the site says huge. And by the way, I have several pages to go here. This is, like I said, it took me a while to put this timeline together, but hopefully this will help us. So on August 12th, 98, a change from Kristin's tragedy. That's when Governor Wilson signed into law the Kristin Smart Campus Safety Act of 1998, which requires campus police to contact law enforcement when violent crimes occur on campus. They can no longer hide or handle it on their own, in quotations. And I had some slides regarding that law in this episode. We're now going to jump all the way ahead to May 25th of 2002. And this is a 6-year mark from when Kristin went missing. And she's finally declared legally dead, which I mentioned, which must have been heartbreaking for her family. Now we're going to do a bigger jump ahead to May 24th of 2016, which is the 20-year anniversary. And I'm going to read a quote from her family. She was a girl with dreams and visions for the future, end quote. I know this is part of why her family put this scholarship together to help students with similar goals and dreams as Kristin. Kristin loved the ocean and loved surfing. She originally wanted to attend school in Hawaii so she could surf and surf and surf. Her parents thought that was a bit far, so they chose San Luis Obispo, where she was able to surf. All right, let me turn the page here. We're now September 6th of 2016, and the current sheriff at that date was Ian Parkinson, and he announces, and I'm going to quote his announcement. He says, new leads strongly suggest that Kristin may be buried near Cal Poly, below the P on the hillside, end quote. Now, the P is the Poly. You know how like colleges will put the big letter on the hillside? That's what he's referring to. So they searched the hillside with over 400 volunteers. The Joint Sheriff Department with the FBI also did a 5-day excavation. Let's see, about 20,000 cubic feet of dirt. And they did find bones. And I'll quote, other possible items of interest. After many, many months, it was revealed that the bones were actually animal bones. Okay, guys, this episode's getting long, so I'm going to leave off here, which is September 6th of 2016. And then I'm going to do a part 2 to the timeline, picking up May 28th of 2017, which marks the 21-year mark since Kristin was missing. So we'll pick it up from there. Hopefully this gives you some insight, and it's probably better not to lump all these dates in one episode. Gives your brain some time to digest this and see if you can pick anything out of it. The trial is approaching faster than we know it. It's not going to be April 25th of 2022 as previously thought. As I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, it is moved to May 31st of 2022, and we're waiting to see the new venue. The judge should be letting us know here. I believe the hearing for that is April 20th, 2022. So justice for Kristin.
If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just be love and watch the smiles come.
Thanks for
Bring
watching.
my spirits up.
Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers.
There's some shit I like to fix, but I still